Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a Thursday afternoon of Organic Chemistry, Chem 170 from Elgin Community College with your host, Dr. White. We only have 1 week together. As things move. Wow. The summer has gone. Wow. I've been busy too, teaching here in another school. That makes it go really wow. But I said wow enough times, so I better get started because you can come here to hear me say wow. I said it again. All right, important things. After today's lab introduction, and I'll let you go, and I'll send out the password for test number 4. You have tomorrow till 11 to upload test number 4 with your answers. Uh, and by Sunday, 1 p.m., if not earlier, I guarantee, better yet, I promise myself, and I've never broken a promise myself, I will have your test scores in D2L. At that time, I'll send out an email that they're available to you, and I'll also post it as an announcement. And by Sunday, 1 p.m., I will send out individual emails to each of you, which each of the points you got on test number 4. I'm going to have to get this fixed. No, it's just part of my way my brain's wired. But anyways, uh, that's the game plan. Don't forget, Monday is the deadline for the extra credit project. It's optional, but it's 10 points, and 10 points can always help anybody. Even if you're doing real well, it doesn't hurt. Now, don't forget, my public service to you is that before Monday, email me what you're going to hand in. I'll check it. And if it's something wrong, guess what? I'll tell you so I can help you fix it. That way you can get all your 10 points, assuming you have 10 entries. Now, common mistake on the uh, extra credit, you can tell it's a different day because this is my third mug of tea. Normally I don't have tea this late in the day, but oh, that's good. I get my tea from the Republic of Tea. But anyways, I will um, email the thing. I will do your check it. Common mistake. I lost my train of thought. But anyways, it's back on track. Uh, Common mistake on the extra credit. One, don't use a functional group that we didn't talk about in class. You know them. Next, a lot of people, I don't know why, but I see it all the time, where they have a carboxylate anion, and that means the name starts with an element like sodium, potassium, or lithium. They put it down as an ester. No, it's a carboxylate anion. I'll say it again. Common mistake on the extra credit is people put down for a name of a compound that looks like an ester, but it's not because it starts with a name of an element like sodium, potassium, or even calcium, and that's going to always be a carboxylate anion. All right, that's that. Now, um, yesterday, I think evening, or was it this morning? I forgot. I posted the following. All right, thumbs up, people. Does everybody see on their screen? Thank you. I have very fast. All right, let's talk about it. And that is Chem 170 final exam information. The Chem 170 final exam will be given Thursday, 7/29/21. That's a week from today at 1 p.m. At that time, I will be emailing you the password for the final exam PDF file. You'll have until the next morning, I made it 10 a.m., so that way I can get started grading earlier, to take the final exam and upload your answers as a single PDF. Now, relax. After I read this, I'll have something to say about this. So relax. You can take up to 3 hours, but most students, when I do it face to face, like everybody, usually it's finished anywhere from 75 minutes to 90, an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half. But I'll give you 3 hours. Take your time. Now, again, relax. Chem 170 final has 32 problems, 18 pages. Take a deep breath. And some of the problems are multiple part, but no multiple choice. I've never used one in Chem 170, never will. Now, there are two separate point breakdown charts I have here. The first one you're familiar with. General knowledge will be 30 points, like how many bonds to carbon. Hope we all got that right. 4. Nomenclature and reactions. And there will be a handful, I don't know how many, I can't, but a few, like 4 to 6. Synthesis, give the starting material questions. Notice it adds up to 210. That means there's 10, yes, 5 plus 5, 10 bonus points on the final. That's my parting gift to you. Now, another point breakdown that also could be helpful to you is points by test. On the final, 35 points will be from material from test 1. Test 2 will have 60 points. Test 3 will have 58 points from on the final from material from test 3, and test 4, 53. And new material, amino acids and proteins, 4 points. Now you might want to ask, how come only 35 points for test from test number 1 material? Well, I'm not going to have 10 points or whatever determine what's the longest chain in this molecule. No, you know how to do that for nomenclature for everything else. And a few of the reactions I don't cover, but it's still 35 points. But where I spent the bulk of the time this semester, once you learn nomenclature, we're in chapters test material 2, 3, and 4. And that's why I have the point breakdown. Now, I'd recommend that you download the final exam and instructions if you need it, same as I've been using all semester. Next Wednesday, sometime I will have the final exam in the assignment area D2L, and you can download it. If you have any questions during the final exam, email me. I'll be checking my email often next Thursday from 1 until maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then early Thursday morning and early Friday morning and part of Friday morning until 10 o'clock. All right, there will be no Zoom meeting lecture next Thursday. Why? Because you're taking the final. And when I teach in the summer, the last Thursday, all it is I give the final. And I will be posting the final exam scores along with your final Chem 170 grade by a week from this Sunday, the Sunday after the final or earlier by 1 p.m. on D2L. At that time, when I have it posted, that Sunday or a little earlier, maybe Saturday, at that time, I will post an announcement, send me an email that all your scores from the test, your lab total, and also extra credit grade, which I'll try and get next week if you do hand it in by Wednesday, and what your final course percentage is and your grade. Couple things. First of all, I do not send out a point breakdown for the final exam. Just like when I'm face-to-face, I don't hand back the final exam to students after the class is over. That's my policy. However, listen carefully. If you're within 15 or 20 points of a cutoff, I go back and grade the final again. That way, I can make sure I haven't made any mistakes And on a rare occasion, I'll find a couple point error, like 2 or 3. Because of that, listen carefully. If a student is within 5 points of a cutoff, I'll give them the higher grade or her the other higher grade. So that way, if I had make a mistake, and also that just makes me feel better, and I'm sure it'll make you feel better too. I don't like where I see an instructor, students 2 points from a cutoff, and it's like 500, 600 points. Come on, give me a break. Give them the higher grade, her the higher grade. And I do. All right. Now, about the final exam. It's like the same size as 2 hourly exams. It's a final. However, students do well on my final exam. I've been teaching this course enough, and they do well in the summer, quite well, when we were face to face. And also, I've taught this on the internet before, like last semester, and listen carefully. Assume, or the average on the final is usually about 170 to 180 for the whole class. Now, ooh, that many points? Well, first of all, it's out of 210. Now, if you divide that by 2, then it's about 85 to 90. And so, yeah, that high, sometimes even higher, is the percentage average on my final exam if you study. Now, on Monday, I will, I will go through test number 4. And when I do that afterward, I will talk about the test number 4 answers. I'll cut out of the video, but afterward, I will show you how many points you need for the final, but still to get the grade you want, but still study like you need every point. All right, any questions about the final exam? Check the chat. Nobody asking that way, nobody the other way. My nose itch, so that got taken care of. All right, I highly recommend showing up or watching the video next week. What I will be doing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we will have a lab on Monday, but I'll be doing is doing a complete review of the whole semester. And students have told me time and time again that really helped them on the final. So stay tuned, come here, or watch the video. All right, any more questions? Well, there weren't any. Any questions at all? Going once, twice, done. All right, it's lab time. That's sort of sad because this is a fun lab you'd love to do. But good news, if you want to, you can do parts of it at home on your own after the semester. Now, when I inherited Chem 170, the labs were beyond awful. I mean, they were pitiful. And I challenged myself. And part of the problem when we're face to face, Chem 170, we only have an hour and 50 minutes, roughly 2 hour time slot to do labs. At all other schools in the area, and I teach at COD, College of DuPage, I've taught this equivalent course, or it's really identical course, it's called Chem 1212 there. They have 2 hours and 50 minutes, roughly 3 hours. And that extra hour makes a difference. Because with that extra hour, I can't use any of the labs from the normal lab books that are sold for this type of 1 semester organic. So what did I do? I challenged myself. And the challenge was come up with my own experiments that are interesting and fun and educational, where the students, you can have them done if we were face to face in an hour and 50 minutes. And finally, I came to, I needed one more experiment. And I said, I've got to really challenge myself now. And I said, what do I need to do that I haven't done all semester for my students? And that is give them experience of real organic chemistry research in the real world. And part of the challenge was ECC isn't going to spend any money on. I already, one thing I had them buy years ago that cost a lot of money, and I wasn't going to get anything, spend a lot more either. So I came up with an idea. What is it based on? One, for many decades, I have been a senior research and development manager at a couple of different chemical companies. And a couple of those companies, their specialty is a compound or type of compound called surfactants. And I said, how can I come up with a good concept or lab with surfactants? And all of a sudden, ding, the light bulb went on, and whoa. And it's been such a fun lab to teach, but face to face, you can still do some of this at home on your own, not for the lab, but just for your own fun and enjoyment. So what is this lab? This lab, and thumbs up, people. Do you see developing competitive products on your screen? Thank you. All right. A key role of organic chemists is to develop competitive products that will compete with existing products. As a senior R&D manager, that stands for research and development, marketing and sales, even the CEO will come to me and other research managers, depending on what area you're responsible for, and says, our competition is making a lot of money with this product, and we don't have anything like it. We need to get something like that. And that would be my job. And organic chemists who do this, like myself, use our understanding of functional group chemistry. You learned that. Their knowledge of patent literature. I'll talk a little about that Monday if I have time. And their knowledge of existing product composition. Now, not to give away a secret, every chemical company I ever worked for had people who were not part of the company. If you had other companies, if you asked, can you get a sample of this for me? They would. So you could always get your hands on a sample from your competitor and analyze it. Now, in this lab, let me do something first. Everybody see on the screen? Oh, maybe you don't. Yes, you do. Do you see the bottles of Super Miracle Bubbles? Well, the CEO of our company says our competitors are making a lot of money with Super Miracle Bubbles. And we need to have a product like that, and that's your job. And where's this from? Oh, Party City sells it. And our job is to make some. And what I would tell the students right now, which I'm going to tell you, is for this lab, you are now my research group. The CEOs come to me and say, we need to make a competitive product that competes with Miracle Bubble, Super Miracle Bubble. And what does that product do? I'm not going to do it in my office, but if we were in the lab right now, I'd take out a bottle and each student gets a bottle to practice with, and I'd blow some bubbles. Let's see something. Time out for an ad. Everybody see that? Hopefully I didn't hurt anybody's ears. But anyways, at that point, when in the lab, if we were face to face, I'd blow bubbles. That's the hardest part of the whole semester for me. Make sure I get some good bubbles out, and I can. But what's a bubble? Good question. Let's take a look. Everybody see my whiteboard? Here's a magnified bubble. What's in the center? Air. What's outside? Air. And here, the bubble has a layer of a liquid that is the bubble. And what's in here? Water and a surfactant and some other stuff too sometimes. If I can spell. And that's the surfactant helps with the water. Now, something you don't know, but I'll tell you, air is non-polar. Ooh, I've heard those terms before. And you know water is polar. So how do you form a bubble? Well, the surfactant, like soap, has a non-polar tail and a polar head. Now, unlike with dirt, you form a different type of micelle. In the liquid surrounding the center of a bubble, you have water, but the tail wants to be near the outside or inside, but the head wants to be in the water. So all around here, you form a special type of micelle, different than the one for and this, a bubble is really a micelle, a different type than what you see for dirt, but still it's a micelle. And therefore, that's how you make a bubble. Because I don't know if I told you this, but if I ever say I'll bet, that means I already know I've won. I don't bet, unless I know I won, because Dr. White loves to win, but worse, I hate to lose. So I'll only bet with another person if I already know I won. I will bet if you have pure water and one of those clean bubble wands that you've washed off with water, no soap on it, you can spend the next 100 years, you will not blow one bubble because you need a surfactant in there to make a micelle. Otherwise, like the Zal's like says, air is non-polar, water is polar, two ain't gonna mix. And they really don't, not that well. And what are we gonna do? Well, we're gonna test different chemicals to see if we can make bubbles as good as or better than Miracle Super Bubble. Now, how do we do that? Well, you're going to be blowing bubbles if we are face to face. Now, in research, when you're doing research, there's a cardinal rule that a lot of chemists violate and causes problems. That is when you're doing experiments, do research, change one variable at a time, only one. Never change this and this at the same time, because if it does work, which made it work, or if it doesn't work, which made it not work, or maybe they both did, you don't know. So only change one variable at a time. But when you're working in industry, you don't want to waste time because time is money. So you want to do your research as quick as possible, but at the same time, without changing more than one variable at a time. And how do you do that? You know what's called design of experiment, DOE. And I know design of experiment. Now, I don't expect you to know it. Therefore, I set up all the experiments you need to do. And if we were face to face, I'd talk about it, and I'm going to do that. And you go blow bubbles, and let's talk about it. Now, in this lab, you're going to be using dishwasher soap, Dawn, liquid hand soap, and I think at the lab at ECC we use Dial, and then laundry detergent, we use All. They're all the same. But anyways, you should know the structure of the Dawn is this molecule. And notice it has a polar head. I think R is about 12 carbons, CH2, 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 so on up to CH3. And they take an alcohol, ethoxylate it, then put a sulfate ester anion on it. And this part is nonpolar. And this is called sodium laureth sulfate. Hold on, I always forget lauryl. What is that, C12 or C14? C12. I was right. Let's check. Yep, C12. I usually work in my industry, into the industry with longer ones, 16 up to 18 and 20. So anyways, that's not what I want. This is what I want. Now that's Dawn. Now the liquid soap, to make it and I think we use Dial brand, they're all the same, is similar but slightly different. And this is where you take an alcohol and ethoxylate it with about 3 to 5 moles of ethylene oxide and put the same type of sulfonate, sodium sulfate anion. And this is called sodium laureth sulfate. And by adding the more ether, polyether here, it makes it gentler on your skin. But again, nonpolar tail and polar head. And because like dissolves like, you get a bubble. And the last one we're going to talk about is laundry detergent. And the one I've been using for years, I like it, is All, and that's what we use there. And here you have an LAS, linear alkyl sulfonate benzene ring. And this is from 9 to 12, I don't remember when. And here, nonpolar tail, and polar head. Now, which one of these makes good surfactant to make good bubbles? I don't know. When in reality, I do, but we don't know at this point, and that's what you're going to do. Now, for part A, you're going to test the efficacy, how well the dishwashing Dawn works as a surfactant. And what you'll do, how do you test it? You'll make up various solutions and you'll blow bubbles. And when you blow the bubbles, you'll measure how long it takes before the bubble pops. And you can either count 1001, 1002. In the lab at ECC, we have a couple of clocks with second hands, and you can measure that. Now, you'll do this in small beakers. And besides that, if one reads the patent literature, now, patent is a legal document that gives a person or a company exclusive rights to certain what's called intellectual property, ideas or concepts. In chemistry, there's three types of main patents. One is composition of matter. That's where you have, this is my molecule, I just invented, and I want exclusive rights to it. Now, when you do something like that, first of all, nobody else could have done that before you. That's part of patent literature law. The other thing is you have to show utility. You just can't say, here's a molecule, it's mine. You have to show, meaning you have to make it first and prove to a certain application it's good. Like, is it a good fabric softener? Is it good for your shampoo? Whatever, and you do testing and put that in your patent. Now, patents cost a lot of money. First off, you pay people like me to do the research. That's a couple $100,000. But to actually submit a patent application to the US government, their filing fee is somewhere around $5,000. Yep. Next, you either have in-house or you pay for a lawyer to help write the patent. That's another 20 to 50,000. So you're spending, if you put a patent in, that means you think there's a good idea, you want a patent because it will protect you because you can make money with it. Well, if you look at the patent literature, there are a number of patents for bubble blowing solution. There's a lot of money in it. Well, what's in that bottle you're buying for a couple of dollars? Mostly water. If I can sell you something that's mostly water for $1 or $2 a bottle, I'm going to make a lot of money, and they do. So when I looked at the patent literature, I found that certain polyhydroxyl compounds help make better bubbles and a better product. Now, one of the things you've got to be careful with, people sometimes lie in there. And that's why you test it. Historically, the ones that lied the most were any Russian patents were more fiction than truth, but that's another story. But anyways, if you read the patent literature, glycerin, which has hydroxyl groups, and corn syrup, which is made up of fructose mainly, and you know fructose has 6 hydroxyl groups, help make bubbles last longer and bigger ones and better ones. Well, you're going to test that. Let's look how you're going to test it. In part A, you're going to make a solution 1A, which is 2 milliliters of the dishwashing, 18 milliliters of water. Mix it and test it. Part formulation A2, you're going to double the amount of the dishwasher. So to 4 milliliters, and we correspondingly reduce the amount of water. So we've tried twice as much. Now, in solution A3, what's ever left of A1, you'll add 5 drops of glycerin and test it. And now we've added glycerin. Now for A4, you'll take all of A2 that's left over, you'll add 10 drops of glycerin. So now you have more surfactant and more glycerin. And finally, we'll do an A5, make another formulation, and add 10 drops of a corn syrup slurry that I make up right before the lab. And you'll test it. What are you going to test? Whenever you test something, you'll be testing how long the, the bubbles last. Now, whenever you do testing against trying to make a competitive product, you test the same way with your commercial product you're trying to beat. And that's called your benchmark. And by the way, dogs are allowed. Oh, that's cute. I've had other people bring their dogs to class via Zoom. But anyways, if you test a commercial product, the average lifetime of 5 bubbles is 10 seconds. Now, here's the data for this for using the dishwashing soap if you were to do it. And this is really what students get. Now, next, I should point out that sometimes formulas are, they're a bust, literally. They don't work well. And I tell the students, if you try 10 times blowing a bubble and you can't get one bubble, put down 0 seconds. Again, if you try 10 times, you can't blow one bubble, don't try anymore. It's a bad formulation and put down 0. That happens when you're doing research. You get good things and you get, well, that's not going to work. And it doesn't. Now, the next part B, we'll use the liquid hand soap. Now, because the liquid hand soap is much more viscous, that's a fancy word meaning thicker, it's harder to measure volume. So I have the students measure weight, which is about the same as volume. And now we'll do the same type of chart, except now we've changed the surfactant. You're into my DOE, design of experiment grid, it's like. And B1, you take the same amount of the surfactant, but now it's the liquid hand soap. And you'll add 18 milliliters of water in solution B1, and you'll test it. B2, double the amount of surfactant, and you'll test it. B3, you'll take all of B1 and add the 5 drops of glycerin. So now you can compare between, say, B3 and BA3, which one does better. And there's the same formulations, B3 and A3, except for the surfactant. And B4 will take, before what? I can't resist saying that, but B4 will take all of B2 and add 10 drops of glycerin. And finally, you'll make a B5, which will make another B2 and add 10 drops of the corn syrup. And no, you don't test the commercial again. You just copy the first time you did it. And B1 is this, B2, B3. And again, this is the average of 5 bubbles. And if you have 10 tries and you get 0 bubbles, you put down 0. And that's what you get here. Now, in part C, we'll be doing laundry detergent, the all. And similar to part A and B, in the C1, the certain amount of the same similar amount as in A1, but now you're using not the the Dawn, you're using the all laundry detergent. And you put 2 milliliters of the laundry 18 water, you double it to 4 and 16. And then for next one, C3, take all of C1, put your glycerin, 5 drops, C4, take all of C2 and add 10 drops. Finally, make a C5 and add another C2 and add 10 drops of the corn syrup. Now remember, if you try 10 or more 10 times, can't get one bubble, you put down 0. And here's the results. Ooh, I'll talk more about this in a little while. And finally, I don't have anything here, but a couple of years ago, some of the students came to me and said, can we try our own formulation? I said, great idea. Go for it. Whatever chemicals we have out for this lab, mix them any way you can. And they did. And they came up with some amazing bubbles. 2.5 years ago, one group had a formulation where the bubble, and it was just perfect conditions, like a perfect storm. The bubble lasted a whole 5 minutes. After about a minute and a half, the whole class was watching for the next till it broke, and we all, oh, that's sad. But it was amazing. It never happened again, at least yet, but I let them do that. Now, one of the important experiences when you're doing a lab is, or no, I should say more in research, when someone comes to me and says, oh, here it is, we got it, let's go tell everybody. As a manager, I say, whoa, stop. My neck's going to be on the line if this doesn't work. Show me. I'm the manager, show me. And when the manager is watching, things get difficult. So to make it realistic, I had the students, when we're face to face, after they've done all their testing, I asked them to pick whatever their favorite formulation of everything they tested, including their own, call me over, and each member of the group has to blow 2 bubbles. And then it gets fun because they're nervous and whatever. It's real life. And I actually sign off on it in the lab when I was an R&D manager. If we're going to issue a report to the company, I have to sign off literally on the form that I have read it and I approve it. And that's because that stops garbage from being sent out. Because otherwise, you might get fired. And people do when they don't make sure things are valid that get issued as reports. So what I do for the lab is Part E, I actually put my initials, blow your bubbles. Now you must, and I tell them you got to do 2 of them. Now, a couple things I need to tell you. One is when I do teach the lab face to face, I tell the following: it's not proper etiquette for you to bust your neighbor's bubbles. That's not. I had one lab where a guy was going around like this to his neighbors. I put a stop to that, and that's when I came up. The other thing I tell them, make sure you wipe up the floor. And also, it's not polite to blow bubbles at Dr. White or your neighbors. That's not fun. I had some people doing that. And it happened a couple of times. I say, when you blow a bubble, blow out, don't inhale, because a couple did it. Oh, it tastes bad. And it was so funny. And anyways, but everybody has a good time. I even bring a camera and take pictures, but I promise students, and that's why I can't show you. I'll never show it to anybody. And when I'm in a dark mood, I look at those pictures and it cheers me up. Now, I need to tell you the following. When I worked well, first of all, in chemical companies, all chemical companies have what's known as a sample room. And they send out free samples to anybody who needs it, if they're possible customer, because that's how they help get business. Because you can test it and say, oh, this will work on our new product. Let's buy it from this company who we got the samples from. Well, anyways, in chemicals, there are 2 types of chemicals. One is industrial chemical. They're high purity, but you never want to use them in a food product or anything you will consume. Because even though chemically they're pure, there's no guarantee biologically they're pure. The second type of chemical is a food chemical or food grade chemical. Those are both chemically pure and biologically pure, meaning there's no microbes or anything else that if you ingest it, you'll get sick. Now, based on that, listen carefully. First of all, from an industrial side, I worked for a company, and part of my job at one company was I was in charge of all waste treatment for the plant on site there. We had these two monster waste treatment plants of about 1 million gallons each, the size of a football field and about 20 feet deep, big. And at that time, we'd bought a site from another company, and they still had some stuff on that. They hadn't closed down what's called the rendering plant. And in our one pond, the aerobic pond, that had microbes that would eat up the waste fat we made or other chemicals, fatty acids. If we killed off the colony, that's not good. And something happened where it was starting to foam. It didn't kill off. And if the foam reached 47th Street, which was like a couple hundred yards from that pond, we'd get fined from the city of Chicago $1 million or so. It was just not good. And my job, the president, my boss came in and said, find out how to get rid of that foam and do it. And I did some testing because there's in what you're testing to make bubbles, that's also called foam. Now, what I had to find was a chemical that broke down the foam. They're called defoamers. And luckily, I knew that in at area chemistry, I got samples in FedExed overnight and found one. And the closest place we could buy, we needed 4 drums, about 2,000 pounds for 1 million gallons of water, was in California. And we had it flown by special aircraft. That was expensive, but it's less than $1 million, and it cut it down. Now, that's defoamer industrial. Now, at another company I worked at, when I joined, I found out the managers and the research development R&D managers had a nice tradition. Friday after work, they all got together at this local dive bar. It was a dive bar in southwest suburbs of Chicago, had no windows, dark, and a small bar, tavern, really. And the owner, and they'd go there, have some beers, complain about their employees, the management, and end the week that way. Well, I started going, and turned out the owner of that bar had a unique habit, and that was her skill, really. He could take a pitcher of beer, fill it, so a third of it was foam. And if you complained, he said, go somewhere else. And he was making a lot of money doing that too. Well, I wish I could take credit for this. Oh, I wish I could. Turned out another R&D manager, this really got him awfully mad, really ticked off. He didn't tell anybody, but he ordered a food grade defoamer. And this stuff is strong. And he put it in a little squeeze bottle. And one Friday afternoon, we went there. He said, shh, don't say anything. And we were really the only ones in the bar, and the bar owner wasn't watching. And we had an almost empty pitcher. He put some in there, swirled around, and said, hey, we need a new pitcher. If you've ever been in bars, you know how they have a soap sink for the pitchers, then a rinse sink, and maybe a second one to hang it up to dry. Well, that afternoon, we stayed longer because he did a few more pitchers. Pretty soon, the wash tank, soap one, and the rinse one was contaminated with this defoamer. And that owner couldn't put a head on there. And we had a few more beers, a few more. But anyways, we're laughing our heads off. And finally, he got the idea. You guys are scientists. What'd you do? Oh, we didn't do anything. He said, you did. Get out of here. Never come back. We found another place that we got full pitchers of beer. But that's to let you know, you're going to be testing things that make foam, and there are chemicals that get rid of foam. Now, if we were face to face when the students were doing the all dishwasher, and they'd be complaining to me, how come I can't blow a bubble? And I'd say this, remember the stories I told you earlier? Like the ones I just did, and they'd be, I say, what don't you ever want in your washing machine? And some of them would say, oh, the all has a defoamer, and that's why we can't get bubbles. And when that happens over the years, I've had a couple students tell me, oh, one time one said I did, another one said their friend did, and I wonder if it was really them. We ran out of laundry detergent. We used Dawn. which has a foamer in it. And guess what? Their whole utility room was covered in foam when they used that in their laundry machine. You don't want to do that. And with that, I would go around, watch the students. Now, one last funny story, and I'll let you go. We're getting out early today, so you can take test number 4. Almost lost count there. But anyways, it's amazing. A lot of times in a group of 2, and we were face to face, we'd be all working. You'd be working in groups of 2, because that's all we have. We only have 12 hoods. And if I had 24 students or a full class, we do groups of 2. Invariably, not always, but one of the group members can't blow a bubble if their life depends upon it, and the other one is pretty good. So I tell students, try a couple. If one of you is better than the other, go with that person. And with that, I'm done for today. Don't forget, in a little while, I'll be sending out the password for test number 4. I'm gonna have to get that fixed. And with that, I'm gonna say, Gang gesund. If you have any questions while you're taking test number 4, email me. And don't forget, it's due tomorrow. On Monday, I will be going over test number 4 in the Zoom meeting, but I will cut it out of the video. If you can't come to Zoom, feel free to come to my office hours. I'll have one next Monday, and, Wednesday night next week. Either come to Zoom, I got the hiccups from somewhere, or watch the video, because my review for the whole semester helps. One last thing I forgot to mention, when it comes to the final exam, instead of playing like a deck of cards, 52 card shuffle, what I do is the first part of the final is from test number 1 material, then test number 2 material, test number 3, test number 4, and at the end, new material. And that's what I do. It makes your life just a little easier. With that, I'm going to say, Gang gesund. I'll see you on Monday.